Voice in the elevator. There is a particular building in Odaiba that's said to have a terrifying urban legend surrounding the elevator inside it. The building, home to a television broadcast station, was a terribly old building, and the elevator inside it was a regular old type where you had to push the buttons for where you wanted to go. But this elevator often broke down, and so it was rather dangerous to use. In such cases, the people inside would have to push the emergency button so they could talk to the security guards and have them restore power to the elevator. At some point, people working in the building started to notice something strange when using said elevator. It sounded like a voice groaning in pain. The voice only ever sounded when people were in the elevator, and being that they couldn't find the source of the noise, it was quite creepy. Still, nothing ever came of the sound, so while it frightened people, they were still able to go about their business as usual. One day, a staff member who was working late pressed the button to get on the elevator, and as the door opened, they went to step inside. However, they were informed by security that they would be unable to use the elevator that day, and so they left via the stairs. When the staff member arrived at work the next day, they found the building in an uproar. It turned out that the reason they were unable to use the elevator was because workers had finally investigated why it always stopped, and, in doing so, discovered the body of a dead man at the bottom of the shaft. The man had been dead for several weeks, but it seemed he had been alive for several days at the bottom before he finally passed away. That was the source of the groaning everyone heard while they were using it. The shrine that guarantees marriage. There are shrines all over Japan that are said to grant one's wishes when it comes to marriage. If there is somebody you have your eye on, then you can visit these shrines, pray to the kami-sama there, and they will ensure that you end up together. But there's one in Saitama that's said to come with a small catch. It's said that if you visit Tamanose Shrine, a mysterious little shrine located somewhere in Okegawa City, you will find that it is by far the most effective of all the matchmaking shrines around the country. If you pray with all your heart at this shrine to marry the person you wish to be with, then your wish is guaranteed to come true. The power of the kami-sama there is so great that your desired partner will suddenly find themselves falling head over heels for you, and marriage is but a formality. But there is a price for making such a wish. Perhaps the kami-sama has a rather amusing sense of irony, because once your wish is granted and your desired partner falls in love with you, suddenly you will no longer be interested in them. All feelings you once had will then disappear, and you'll be left with someone who wants nothing more than to be with you while your own feelings no longer exist. It serves, perhaps, as a warning to always find a partner through your own best efforts and not to try to sway someone through other means. You might not always get the result that you want. The Frogman. This legend comes to us from pre-war Japan. It was said that on a mountain near a small farming village, way out in the countryside, there was a river with particularly clean water. Near this river lived a tiny man with a face that resembled a frog. Because the mountain was full of bountiful vegetables and a variety of animals for hunting, the villagers often visited it, and they often ran into the frogman as well. Whenever they did, this strange little man would smile and offer them a tiny brown ball. Naturally, this creeped the villagers out, and they always refused to take it. The frogman never got angry, however. He would simply smile and head on his way. But there was one person who eventually accepted the frogman's offering. A small boy from the village, who felt bad that nobody ever accepted his kind offerings. Curious, the boy climbed the mountain one day with the express purpose of finding the frogman and receiving one of his brown balls. The frogman happily handed the gift over, and according to the boy, the ball tasted incredibly sweet. But almost immediately after that, the boy noticed a change. until the day he died, the only sound that came out of his mouth sounded like a muffled voice of a frog. And nobody has seen the frogman since. Whether he moved on or passed away remains until this day unknown. Sazae-san House. There's a house in Kamakura City, Kanagawa Prefecture, that people call the Sazae-san House. It's named after the manga and anime series Sazae-san, because the nameplate on the front of the house, Isono, shares the same last name. According to some rumours, the family that lived in the house even shared the same makeup as the family in Sazae-san. The story goes that the family who lived in this house died in a murder-suicide over 30 years ago, killed by one of the children. After that, their ghosts were often seen loitering around the area. In 2003, the house was set on fire and then left abandoned in that state. More recently, however, people who have visited the site claim that the Sazae-san house was finally knocked down and a new building has been put up in its place. The reality of the house may have been far less scandalous, however, and it's believed that the house was left abandoned because of a dispute over ownership rights, not because the entire family was killed there. Either way, after all those years of being left abandoned, the house has finally been torn down and only exists as pictures that still circulate on the internet. Mobile Granny. Around 10 years ago, mobile phone use exploded and people everywhere were using them. One day, a young girl was on the train when she started making a call. "You're on the train, and your call is bothering the other passengers," the person on the other end of the line suddenly said. The girl was surprised. "What are you talking about? Nobody's bothered." "No," the person on the other end refuted. Then the voice suddenly changed into that of an old woman. The girl pulled the phone away from her ear and saw that she was no longer holding her phone, but instead holding a small, old woman, about 15 centimeters in height. The old woman bit her finger, dropping to the floor of the train and dashing off. That old woman was the yokai known as Keitai Baba, or the Mobile Granny. This yokai appears when people are bothering others on the train with their phone. Take care when you're on the train and be careful not to bother others with your loud calls. Sennichimae Building. In May 1972, a horrific fire tore through the Sennichimae Building in Osaka. 117 people died. Because of that, the local area is now host to numerous ghost stories. An employee left the Sennichimae Building through a basement exit one day when it was raining. He opened his umbrella and walked out into a crowd of people, dodging them as he went. But for some reason, something about the place felt wrong. There was something off about the people passing him as well. It was raining, yet not a single one of them had an umbrella. They were all silent, their expressions clouded over, and they were all looking the same way as they walked. A short distance away, a taxi suddenly stopped in front of the man and waved at him. "Come here!" he screamed. "No, I don't need a taxi," the man replied, but the driver insisted. "Just get in." The man had that bad feeling again, so he got into the car, wanting to get away from there as soon as possible. A short while later, the driver finally spoke again, his face pale. "Yeah, so when I saw you walking along that empty street like you were trying to avoid people, I thought I had to do something to help you." Rolling Grandpa. There are various urban legends about old grannies who can run fast. Turbo Granny, Hopping Granny, etc., etc. But have you heard the tale of Rolling Grandpa? If you haven't, never fear. He's said to reside in Nagoya, and Nagoya alone. Similar to Turbo Granny, Rolling Grandpa is known to chase cars speeding along the highway, rolling alongside them the whole way. This is where he gets his name. Much like Turbo Granny, if he manages to overtake you, it's said that you'll crash soon after. He's also said to be good friends with Jumping Granny, also from Nagoya, but whether they're actually a couple or just partners in crime remains unknown. Either way, if you see an old person chasing you down the highway, beware. Doom may soon follow.